What's up, everybody? Jason from Jason's Exotic Reptiles back at you with another video. Today we're going to talk about cleaning at scale. So you're a growing keeper or breeder and you need to figure out ways that you can spend more time with your animals and less time cleaning them. That's what this video is going to be all about. Stick around to the end because not everything will apply to you, but everybody's going to get something out of this video. So things that I mentioned that are important to me are keeping these animals healthy and clean so that really, again, we can keep them so they live a long time and we can enjoy them for a long time. This guy's made his debut plenty of times, but this is Fred. He is a Culpa Peruvian red-tailed boa, BCC. I've had him for a long time, since I think 2010 or 2013. And he's been here. He's been one of my star breeders that have been creating all of my Peruvian litters. So if you guys have watched my channel, you'll be familiar with him. Some things that I need to look for beyond just efficiency is keeping things disinfected. So we're going to show a couple ways that I clean things, that whole setup in a minute, but something I want to talk about are the cleaners. Now, I cycle through cleaners. My preferred cleaner is chlorhexidine, and that's mainly because it's not very harsh on the animals. It's not harsh on you from the fumes perspective. There's some controversy with it, but it is really one of the safest cleaners out there. You can literally use it as a mouthwash, and they do that often in medical practices, both with people and animals. So no matter what cleaner you're using, make sure you dilute it properly. Let's go flip the camera, take a different shot, and show you guys an example of me cleaning a cage. General setup for cleaning at scale that I do is I use these buckets. You don't need to use this specific setup. This is what I do because we have a few of these. We can wheel them around the room. I also have a hose. You can attach a hose to most faucets with just a simple adapter. I highly recommend that if you have scale. Bringing that bowl, as I mentioned, to and from the faucet or to and from your sink or your bathroom, whatever you're using to dump and fill these, it just takes a lot of time. So everything I'm looking for is efficiency with getting the same or optimal results. Another thing that I like to do is I have a big bin like this. It's filled with my cocoa chips, my substrate. You can use this. You can have a pile of newspaper next to you, paper towels, whatever you like, aspen bedding. But I like to put it into a bin that's really easy and accessible. Then I have a little container like this. So as I'm spot cleaning, I can take a bin and I can just dump a little bit more in as we go. One tool that I always have next to me as well is I have different size scrapers. So as the snakes, the urates tend to stick to the cages. With my larger scrapers, I usually use those for the larger cages, and then I downsize as I get to the smaller cages. But these things come in really handy to scrape the urates off the bottom. You can give it a wipe with a chlorhexidine rag. One thing that I do is once I've wiped the cage with that rag, I will throw it into my water bucket. Those will all get cleaned. I have hundreds of those rags, and I can just keep replacing them. In between cleanings, I'll soak them in bleach or some type of similar disinfectant so they're all clean for the next time. I don't worry about getting all the little bedding particles off, but I do want them at least sterile so every time we use them, they're clean, ready to go. So I have my bin here. I will just take a hose, I'll fill it up a little bit, and then I'll use chlorhexidine. This is my preferred cleaner. I'll dump about a 1-to-10 ratio. I don't do it specifically. I'll just dump 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's about good. And then I will fill this up with some water. Usually just a little bit to start. I have my rags in here. I'll use these to wipe the bowls down. But then basically as I clean, I'm gonna dump my water bowls in a little bucket right here. This will then get taken to the sink. It saves me 100 trips. Maybe I only need to make 2 or 3. So I'll dump my water bowls. I'll put them in here. I'll wash the water bowl, spray them off over here because in theory, everything is being disinfected as it's touching this. Put it back in the cage, fill it up, spray the cage. Another thing that also helps is to have a consistent setup and flow of how you're going to clean the cages. So for me, I have my table out front. You don't need to have a stainless steel table like this. You could have a folding table. Just something if you're doing racks, you can take the bin out, put the bin on top of here. Then I will have my water bucket right here. I can dump my water bowls. I have a small trash bucket right here where I can scoop the bedding out and put it in here. If you have newspaper, you can use maybe a larger one or you can put it right into the trash, but this keeps my workspace a little bit more open and I'm able to move around it. I have my bin of cocoa blocks, which is right next to me, or this is the Gaps Cocoa. I really like this one. It's what I've been using. It's what I recommend to people. And then I have my cleaning bucket that we just filled up right here. So my flow is basically I can pull the bin out, put it on the table if I need to. Sometimes I can clean in place. I can take the water bowl, dump it, scrub it in here, wash it out, let it sit, finish cleaning the cage, fill it up with block if I need to, go back to the water bowl, fill it up, wash it out, put it in here, then I can just put it right back. Having this consistent flow is really important because over time you're going to build some type of a muscle memory. Everything is always in the same place, and you can really decrease the amount of time you spend per cage while still getting the same results. That's what we're going for when we're moving at scale. Everything is about efficiency. We're going to clean this cage as an example. As I mentioned, I basically pull this out. We have a dirty cage. We have some urates. Take my water bowl. I'll dump it. I'll take one of my rags in the bucket, and I will just spin it around, make sure I get all the sides of it, do the underside of it, and I'm just going to let that sit. As that's sitting here, I will take my scraper and I'll start cleaning some of these urates off. Now this one's got some urates all over the place. The poop is the easy stuff to clean. The urates are the things that stick to the bottom, and it takes a little bit of scraping to get them off and clean. So I'll just keep scraping, dumping. I have gloves because if there is poop, I can just grab it with my hands, not worry about it. Now, everything in my collection is clean, at least healthy from a health standpoint. So that's also important. If you have a quarantine rack, you don't want to be using this same protocol. You want to take the extra time, scrub each bowl individually. Don't cross-contaminate things. Don't use the same tools and utensils that you might be using. But we're basically getting this cage as clean as we can within reason. Scraping it all out. I push some of the bedding around to make sure that I got everything. I have some urates in the corner, so I'm going to use my smaller scraper. Again, the importance of having different tools handy and right next to you is my hand just went right to it. And then I will get one of my rags, just wring it out, give those urates a scrub. Another thing I use often, which I don't have next to me because I just dumped my water bowl, is a magic eraser. Magic erasers work really well at getting some of the staining off the sides of the cages. This isn't dirty, this is just staining from the bedding itself. Over time, these get stained up from just the coloration of the bedding. Take this dirty rag, put it in my dirty water bucket. I'll pull the glass. You don't need to do this, but I usually do it every couple cleans to get any crud that's on the glass off. And then I will just start clean my glass. I don't worry about it being spot free as long as it's clean. Put a little bit of extra bedding in there. I didn't scoop a lot, so I don't need to go too crazy with that bedding. And then I will take my water bowl. The importance of having the hose is it really cuts down your time. Put the water bowl in, fill it up, give the whole cage a little spray, and this cage is done. So in probably 2 minutes or so, I just got that cage done. So in theory, that was a fairly dirty cage. It took me some time to get through. Some of these I can get down to a minute. Some of them I need to spend a little bit more time, 2-3 minutes. The quicker I can move through these with getting those same results is what I'm going for. Now, if I were using a bathroom faucet, I would need to take that water bowl, walk over to my bathroom, fill it up. That whole process might take as long as it just took me to clean this whole cage. So things that you're looking for, ways that you can improve your efficiency. If you can't do a hose, get a little gallon of water or something and pour it in. It saves those trips. Anything you can do that can work with your specific setup is something that's going to help you. If you're just a small keeper, you have 1 or 2 cages, go to the bathroom. You don't need to hook a hose up. There's no point in doing that. You can buy a little mister or sprayer like that. But if you are trying to really scale like this and you're becoming a medium to large scale breeder, you're going to need to look for these types of efficiencies. Now that this whole rack is done, the nice thing about having a mobile setup is I can just move it right to the next. Again, your setup may be different. Maybe you need to move to a different part of the room. Maybe you don't need all of these things here. And it also depends on cage size. But I just finished this rack. I'm moving over here. All I need to do is wheel everything to the next spot. So everything is on wheels if possible, minus my trash barrels. You can get those bins you can put those wheels and those dollies underneath them. But I'm just basically moving everything over. And in less than 30 seconds, I'm ready to start cleaning the rack right next to it. Everything's still in the exact same spot, and it really depends, again, what works for you. Sometimes I'll switch this up. Sometimes I'll put this over here and this table next to me. It just saves a little bit of rotation. So it's really just finding what works for you. Every day might be a little bit different, what you're feeling. Sometimes you clean the room from one end to the other. It just top to bottom, just whatever works. You feel it out, you try different things, but getting these fundamentals in front of you, things like a hose if you can, or if you have one of those HDX sprayers or something, you can use that in place of a hose. You can have a big gallon of water or so. I've seen people use those 5-gallon buckets of water, or the 5-gallon jugs of water, and they put a little spout or even coolers. So as they're filling the water bowls up, they can just put the little spout for the cooler. They can wash over a bin like this, and everything's just as efficient as you can get it. As you start scaling, you're going to need to get away from your home setup and probably get something a little bit more specialized. Lots of electrical, easy access to water, easy access to drains, or some place to drain these buckets. So all this stuff is going to help you progress and be able to scale with a more efficient way to cleaning. What I do on a weekly basis is what you just saw. Now, in between those big cleans, I'm going to be going into these cages, just kind of checking, making sure the water bowl's good, making sure there's no urates or poop in the cages. And I'll do this almost every day. I'll just go through each one of these, pull them open. Sometimes I do multiples at a time. The way my rack setup is I can kind of pull them all out. So if I had 3 snakes, I'll do 3, I'll sniff around. Is there anything in there? Do the water bowls look good? Did they go to the bathroom in there? Everything's good. I'll close them and I'll move to the next one. Things that I can't stress the importance of enough is having clean water bowls. Now there's going to be a slime that fills up on the inside of those water bowls as water sits. I do only do a big water change and clean once a week. However, I'm in these cages almost daily, and if a water looks a little low, it looks a little dirty, I'll dump it and I'll fill it. I don't bring my whole setup out like you saw. This is me going to the sink, because out of every cage in here, I might only need to clean 2 or 3 of them in this whole rack every day. I don't need that efficiency, and it allows me to check on the animals as I'm doing this. Hopefully this video helps a few of you guys out. You learned some things that I do at a larger scale breeding facility, and you can apply at least something you learned in this video. If you found it helpful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We have all kinds of content like this to help you become a better keeper and breeder. If you're looking for a community of people to join, like-minded keepers and breeders, check out my Patreon. And if you want to see any animals for sale, like some of these babies that I have in the racks over here, check out my website, jasonsexoticreptiles.com. Until next video, let's keep it moving.